In the United States, a controversial push to prohibit Oklahoma judges from considering Islamic law in deciding cases heads back to court just in time for this week's 9/11 anniversary. One of the groups behind it has plans for a similar campaign in Australia. Muslim leaders in the US state it violates their rights and stigmatises their faith. And as North America correspondent Craig McMurtry reports, the row is particularly confronting for one 9/11 widow who is a Muslim.
Baraheen Ashrafi didn't always wear her hijab or headscarf every day. But September 11 changed everything, including her approach to her religion.
I don't consider them as a Muslim. In Islam, it doesn't say to do anything, harm people.
After 9/11, she covered up and felt she had to escape New York. She moved to the heart of the US Bible Belt, Oklahoma.
I don't see that many people in here wearing hijab, probably once in a while.
She was a new mother. She'd given birth to a boy 2 days after the Twin Towers fell. And she was on her own. Her husband, a waiter on the 107th floor of the North Tower, died that day. His remains have never been found.
They don't know that Muslim was killed on that day. It's been 10 years. How come, people still they don't know?
In the years that followed 9/11, reported hate crimes directed at members of the Muslim community were almost unheard of in Oklahoma. Until last year, when a public campaign was launched to amend the state constitution to specifically prohibit courts referring to sharia law.
It demonized me and dehumanized me to the point that you feel like you're a second-class citizen.
When Muslim leaders like Imam Imad Enchassi objected, he says the public reaction was much worse than the suspicion after the 1995 Oklahoma bombing and the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
I would say the most hate crime and the most threats we got was after the sharia law was blocked.
Muslims make up less than 1% of the state's population. No one had been seriously pushing for courts to follow Islamic law.
What you have, though, is a handful of organizations and individuals that have launched a very well-funded and well-planned campaign of misinformation. So this is actually an example of...
Lawyer Muneer Awad and other Muslim leaders started receiving hate mail after Oklahoma voters were bombarded by a series of automated phone calls.
A law that says a husband can demand sexual relations from his wife without her consent.
There was a lot of anti-Muslim hysteria, paranoia, and a lot of campaigning based on anti-Muslim bigotry.
For proponents like Act for America, founded after 9/11, it was a preemptive strike.
Our goal is to pass it in every state we can, and we will do everything in our power, using all our resources, to make sure we send a very strong message to radicals living within our midst.
Brigitte Gabriel leads a lobby group with 175,000 members. She says they're exercising their freedom of speech to protect Muslim women in America from sharia law. She uses an assumed name and has received her own hate mail.
Being an Islamophobe is not an irrational fear. We are dealing with terrorists living among us, trying to blow us up, whether we want to acknowledge it or not.
And she has plans for Australia.
Act for Australia is the latest. We are dealing with Australian individuals who are very interested in setting up a model that follows Act for America, because obviously our model works. We have perfected how we do things. It's like a McDonald's franchise.
Oklahoma voters overwhelmingly supported the preemptive ban, but a federal judge blocked it on appeal. And so in the midst of the controversy, one Oklahoma resident finds herself, reluctantly, back in the limelight, reminding people that there were also Muslim victims on 9/11.
I can't explain it in any words, but I wish I want to see his face, how the face, to see.
The next round in the contentious case is due to be heard the day after September 11. Craig McMurtry, Lateline.